Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this panel discussion today. My name's Ryan Walker. My pronouns are he, him. I am the Vice President of the Glamazon Global Board, and I will be facilitating today's conversation. My day job is an executive inquiry leader for US customer service in the consumer org. I also come from a creative background, so I'm really excited to be talking to some other creatives today, as I spent 7.5 years with Amazon Imaging as a stylist manager working with photographers, and we've got a couple photographers in the panel today. These spotlights are live. So the spotlights for the Amazon employees are live on Amazon's Instagram page, which is at Amazon Ops Life. Again, that's at Amazon Ops Life, OPS, as well as Amazon's LinkedIn page. So all the spotlights can be found there. Well, thanks everyone for taking some time out of your day to talk with me. I'd love to hear from everyone, first and foremost, what your favorite part of this photo shoot was.
The fact that there was so much queer representation, the photographer, the producer, the makeup artist, all of queer identities. So it literally, walking in, felt like community. It felt like it was easy to make friends and it was easy to connect with everyone and get to know everyone. And I think that was the most important part for me of number one, representation, because it just takes down those barriers and it immediately provides safety. So that was awesome to have.
Vivian?
Yeah, you know, the photo shoot for us here in Seattle took place at a park, and it was so beautiful and it was sunny, and I really loved that. I enjoyed that experience of getting to shoot outside, you know, but really, I really enjoyed working with the team that I was working with. Eleanor shot my photos, and it was just amazing, you know, and also shooting with another queer creative is really nice because they consider a lot of things that, you know, maybe other photographers don't necessarily think to consider. So it was great that they were focused on making sure that I felt most comfortable at all times. And that was amazing.
How about Juan?
Okay, yeah. So I think that I cannot choose like only one moment. So since the beginning, I with the makeup part and everything here in Madrid, we had the photo shoot inside a studio. So I felt like a superstar, and then with Iris, she made me feel like she made me feel like a superstar also. And you know, we had like funny moments there, also dancing in the studio, and it was like a really good experience.
Iris?
Okay. Thank you, Juan. I think the same. I am so lucky because I love my job and I love every single part of it. But in this case, I enjoyed meeting all the crew and especially Juan because I felt a connection with him. And yeah, thank you for this moment. Yeah.
Awesome. Katerina, I think I saw you next.
Yeah, so I love the whole experience. But if I have to choose the favorite part, I think it will be the positive energy that was coming out of Zuza. And each time when her favorite song was played in the speakers, she started jumping and dancing, and she just shared that energy with me, which I consumed happily. And it brought a massive smile on my face, which you know, I could not really stand still for the photo shooting, but it was really great. It was an amazing experience. And I have to say, with the same with Juan, I was feeling like a superstar.
That's awesome feedback. How about you, Eleanor?
Well, I love hearing all of these answers because I feel the same way about my photo shoots I did with both Tori and Vivian. But I feel like especially with COVID and not meeting too many people you haven't met before, just like showing up to a park and meeting someone you've never met before and just like really connecting on an intimate level. And yeah, I was like, oh my God, I made new friends. So it was really, really special. Yeah.
That's so great. That sounds like it was a really positive experience for everyone. And Vivian, I love what you shared about queer artists capturing this queer population. So I'd love to hear from the photographers a little bit about your process and how you choose to represent your subjects, especially those LGBTQIA+ subjects, in your creative work.
Well, a huge part of my process as an artist is like connecting with my subjects. And I think there's so much trust that has to take place in that. But I also do a lot of self-portraiture, and that's kind of helped me feel more informed about how I like to feel behind or in front of the camera. And so I feel like listening to my subjects and just creating a space that feels like safe. Yeah. And asking questions, and just sometimes it's less taking photos and more just like being like, we don't have like, let's just be together, and like, yeah, just checking in and stuff. So yeah.
I love that, especially what you said about earning trust with your subject, because it can be really vulnerable to be in front of the camera. So how about you, Iris?
Bueno, para mí lo más importante es realmente que estén en un entorno seguro, hacer que la gente se sienta bien.
So yeah, basically like make a safe place, first of all, and make people feel good about themselves is one of the most important things.
Y intento cuando fotografío dar como una parte de mí muy importante y que se sienta reflejado en la foto.
Yeah, and of course, like collaborate with queer people and also have her work, like the reflection of her queerness in all of her work as well.
Y un poco más, o sea, como que se sientan bien y intentarlos entender también.
Of course. Yeah, and try to understand everyone and make people understand with the pictures about this community.
And for me, the most important thing is to represent the person as it is, when I take a picture of everyone, or feel the connection, and try to make my best for this community, or
and show everyone.
Sure.
Wonderful, thank you. Eleanor, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that too, because I feel like the queer space too, like it's just been co-opted by so many other things all the time. So yeah, capturing someone like the way they want to be captured, and like what do they want to say, who do they want to be, like what do they want their image to be. And I think taking that power back is like really important. So
it's a perfect segue to my next question. It's Pride Month, and we're talking about art here, which is such a wonderful thing, something to celebrate for sure. So I'm curious if there's specific LGBTQIA+ artists, storytellers, activists that inspire you, and we can start with the photographers and then come back to our Amazonians.
Vale, para mí lo más importante es, todos mis amigos son artistas, entonces es como que para mí es súper importante estar rodeada de gente que te inspira arte.
It's funny because I'm going to translate, but I think the same on this opinion, so we're going to
maybe
speak for each other in this case. Well, like we love painters, writers, photographers, which are inside this community, but like which inspire it is, and us in this case the most, is our friends, because we are in a creative queer community, and we are so proud and of our friends. We just like hang out, have a couple of drinks, speak with each other, and it's more like a family. Yeah.
And we have a magazine, a queer magazine.
Yeah.
And yeah, the name is Goat.
Yeah. For
And-
example, we have this magazine in which we can create whatever we want. There's no rules. We can be whoever we want in each moment, and we want people to feel the same, you know.
Yeah.
And by having friends, what you said before, like having this shoot, meeting new people in this community makes you grow, and listening to other people sharing these experiences are something wonderful, and
I think it's
something
beautiful
to do to make us learn.
Yeah.
And we are meeting you now, guys.
Yeah.
So
We learn every day. Yeah.
maybe you inspire us to create
Yeah.
something.
We aspire us.
How about you, Eleanor?
Yeah, I'm really glad y'all answered the question first, because I'm like, exactly. Exactamente. Yeah. I definitely, like, my queer community around me, my friends, like, are super inspiring, and yeah, that's yeah, I totally feel that, and I'm really excited to have been meeting you guys too. Yeah. So
Vivian?
Yeah, I'm really inspired. There are actually a couple of actresses that really inspire me. I love Laverne Cox and the work that she does, and the advocacy that she has. And that's always stood out to me. And another one is India Moore, and she's also a great advocate, but she is also just so real in who she is and her experiences, and sharing that and being strong, but also sharing that, like, we can't always be strong. And then on top of that, like you all said, our friends, the people around us, I'm really inspired by doers. It's really easy to say that, I'm here and I support you, but the people who do, the people who get out to make that change, it's really easy to sit in the stuff that we have going on, but there's so many people out there, even in this area here in Seattle, who go out and do the work. Tori, they are amazing. They're a doer. And, I've always been really drawn to Tori as a colleague and a peer because of that. Those are the type of people that really inspire me.
Laverne Cox. Laverne Cox is an amazing activist, and honestly, truly, she is a superwoman. She permeates in every industry, from politics to tech to media, and especially in media. She's trailblazing the way of redefining what our presence is in mainstream media, and how people need to stop thinking of a specific picture of what trans looks like. And it also brings to surface the question, or not necessarily the question, but the conversations around that we need to have around accessibility. What does it mean to get representation? Do you have to look a certain way? Do you have to pass a certain way? And if so, why? Because what we're talking about, what we're going back to, is gender constructs and gender bias. And Laverne is taking down patriarchy and white supremacy in every sense of the way, and I'm following her lead every day. So that's, yeah, Laverne.
Go ahead, Juan.
Yeah, from my side, I think that a good person that we have here in Spain, a good name that we have is Valeria Vegas, and is a writer, a transgender writer that wrote the Venenos memories. So right now we have also a TV show, and I think that it's like a good representation also of she was a friend of the personality and the history that she was writing, and she was also, there was like a lot of difference between both personalities and everything, and I think that can be also a good representation of, in some cases, this different way to be. It's like a thing that can really be the difference and really bring something good to the table, and I like it.
Wonderful. Katarina?
Yeah, so I have to echo what Vivian said. I do admire the actress that Vivian mentioned, and Eleanor and Iris, that this is just what we need, right? The doers. And when you actually mention that we don't need people who only speak out to support, but they are just doing. I am from Poland and I am based in Gdańsk, and maybe you're aware that my country is going through the very difficult times when it comes to the LGBTQ+ community. And there is an activist, and he's also a film director. His name is Bart Staszewski, and he's actually speaking out loud, addressing what the right wing, the nationalist government in Poland is doing to our community. He's addressing it to the European Parliament, and the European Parliament is actually responding to that call out, to the cry of the people, which again, it talks to about, you have to go out and do. You cannot be afraid of speaking out loud about it. So I do admire, and I am inspired by his work, and I'm actually doing the same thing. I'm trying to be active and speak out loud.
Yeah, wonderful call outs all around. I really love how we talked about community, and I think of so many of the queer, out and proud Amazonians I've worked with over the years, not just in the creative realm, but also getting to be a part of Glamazon, leading with Glamazon, and meeting folks from all across Amazon in different and unique roles. I did want to mention, because I am a writer as well, I know Juan had mentioned a literary artist, and Glamazon actually partnered with Amazon Books to do a Pride Month curation. And one of the books that was selected was Memorial by Brian Washington. And I think he's just such a spectacular writer and one to watch. And if you haven't checked out the book, I highly recommend it. In fact, I wrote a blurb for it for Amazon Books. But I want to transition over, speaking of our out and proud Amazonians all across the network, I'd love to talk to the Amazonians for a few minutes about their specific roles in worldwide operations. So I want to start with Katarina. If you could talk a little bit more about your specific role and your experience working for Amazon.
Yeah, thank you. So I am a dangerous goods safety advisor, and I work for Amazon as a process expert to use my industry expertise and knowledge of the operational process to create and improve the existing workflows and related to the products identified as dangerous goods, to mitigate the transportation risk, make sure the Amazon is adhering to the national and international regulations. And also I'm standing proud as a Glamazon Poland board member. But also, I think on top of that, I have to say that I'm wearing a lot of hats. DGSA, Dangerous Goods Safety Advisor, being one of them, which I passionately do since 10 years. But I am a human open person. A lot of people come to me if they have any troubles. They do not consider me as a manager, but they do consider me as a very open person. And they know they have to, if they have to speak openly about something that they don't feel very comfortable to go to their manager, to the HR partners, they will come to me. And often they are addressing any issues which may just be a misunderstanding. So I do have this other hat that I'm wearing, supporting other people's, not only LGBTQ plus community, also the managers and HR partners who are dealing with the communities and different situations that they might not be aware how to deal with or educated enough how to deal with them.
In my case, I'm a project manager for Spain and Italy, and my job is so I'm focused on the repair service that we have in Amazon, and yeah, my goal is to improve the overall experience of all the service. So we have different projects, and we are always contacting the different vendors that we have to repair all the items that our customers send them. And this is also important in terms of sustainability, because we need to try to have the more to avoid the more replacements or refunds or returns and everything, just to be able to give more life to our products.
Yeah, so working at Primaire as an executive assistant, I support a couple different directors in the engineering and software realm. So it's my job to keep everything on track. I schedule a lot of different meetings, and do those things to make sure that we're able to get everything in a day that needs to be done. It can be a bit of a challenge. It is a global team. So we have teams in Graz, we work with some teams in Poland, we work with teams in Israel as well. So, working with those time differences is definitely a challenge. But overall, it's to get things organized so that we can deliver on a customer promise. And that's what Amazon's all about. How can we deliver to customers and continue to innovate in how we deliver to customers in a timely manner? And what we're working on is really exciting, and I can't wait for it to pop off.
I have a story at Amazon because, like, for me, from the beginning, I said I'm from North Carolina, and that's really, really imperative to note because when I grew up, when I lived and when I started my career in North Carolina, I knew that my livelihood could be jeopardized if I came out. And coming out to me was like a threefold way. It was number one from sexual orientation, then to coming out of like full blown that I'm gay, to full blown of like actually plot twist, I'm transmasculine, non-binary. And that specific time in North Carolina, I knew in my career, if I chose to come out, I could lose not only my job, but my clients and also the reputation that I had. And that is really, really unfortunate and a really important thing to notate during Pride, especially in June and World Pride in August too. Not everyone has the opportunity to celebrate. Not everyone has the opportunity to come out. And I moved to Seattle and I started working at Amazon specifically because Amazon did not care how you presented at work. As long as you do your work, as long as you get the job done, they don't care about what you look like, how you identify. And that brought psychological safety that I've never had in a company before. And that to me really triggered when I was recruiting at Amazon Logistics at the time was how do I make sure that ops leaders that I'm hiring feel like they can bring authentically every bit of who they are, regardless of racial identity, gender identity, etc. How can they know that coming to work is not going to affect their livelihood if they show who they are to share with the world? And I think that really set me on the path of moving into an inclusion diversity role. That was my first DEA role at Amazon, of training HR and people leaders of what do we need to talk about beyond race and gender? How do we start bringing in conversations around gender constructs, gender expression, what the challenges are when it's transitioning, especially when you're transitioning outside of a city like Seattle, where Seattle is known as one of the safe places in the world to be openly queer and trans. It's because of policies, it's because of legislation, it's because of healthcare, that's because of organizations that are based in Seattle too. So the question is, how do we continue building mechanisms where employees, number one, know that they can transition safely in the workplace, know that they can be who they are, know that they're going to have the resources too. Number two, and part of that is how do we make sure that we're upskilling HR and people leaders to know how to be the best advocate for their employees, and more importantly, recognize that they represent a global workforce. And a global workforce has so many different layers, and we have so many different identities at this company.
I love hearing about the diversity of roles just within worldwide operations, which we know is a huge umbrella. I'd love to hear, since we're talking about Pride Month today, I'd love to hear the Amazonians speak a little bit about resources that might be available at Amazon to LGBTQIA+ employees, as well as resources to educate allies within Amazon.
So let's talk about Transgender Toolkit. The Transgender Toolkit is a really amazing resource specifically for employees that are looking for resources to transition in the company. It gives you guidelines from email templates to how to update your name through the system. If you're updating your name and gender marker, it gives you those tools to do that. It gives you also resources on how to have conversations with your allies. And if you don't know how to have a conversation, if you're still looking for guidance, this is where you get in touch with the Global Transgender Committee team. And the Global Transgender Committee team is truly essentially what our job is. Number one is how do we connect with all trans employees, trans and non-binary employees around the world in the company to make sure, like, do you have the same resources? If not, what can we do to build it? Number two is to build community, because that's the most important part of, like, when you're coming out in a company, and depending on what team, what area, what business line you're in, you might feel like you're the only, and we want to make sure that you know that you're not the only, and that more than likely your challenges are being experienced by other employees. And then number three, in the Transgender Toolkit, again, it's centered for employees that are transitioning in the company. It used to be seen as an educational resource for allies. And that's where we shifted that about 2 years ago in building Amazon Allies Gender Identity Education. This just rolled out last year in 2020, especially after gender identity was federally recognized as a protected class in the Civil Acts movement, Civil Act movement. In June 2020. So I think that was really important and a foundational click for a lot of leaders to understand, like, oh, I don't know what gender identity is. I'm mixing it up with sexual orientation. And I also don't understand why it's important to talk about in the workplace. And this education really is catered to people that have little to no DEI experience or knowledge, especially around the LGBTQIA community, to help upskill them to understand, like, here's correlated data points of gender identity discrimination in our industry. Here's what you can do when you encounter common red flags that we're tracking over the past couple years. That is something that we see that often replays. And number three, it's centralizing education as a foundational expectation for HR and people leaders, so they know what to do in all DEI related escalation circumstances. So again, it's taking that conversation beyond race and gender. And more than that, as we make sure that we have resources internally for employees, we're also trying to up level our leaders, so the leaders are not relying on their employees that they're trying to advocate for guidance. That's the most important part, because our job in the trans and non-binary community is not meant to educate our allies. It is truly for us to, like, we just want to live. We just want to, like, we just want to work. We just want to be who we are. And we don't want to have to teach people in that process. And I think that's really important to have those resources built.
Go ahead, Vivian.
As an Amazonian, member of the community, I think it's great that we have Glamazon. You know, having an affinity group that is full of people who, you know, maybe think like you or have similar experiences to you is really welcoming. You know, especially when you think about the people who are on the board, and the types of events that happen. It's really great. And it really kind of is eye-opening to some of the benefits that are available. One thing that I remember pre-COVID that Amazon did that was really not only for allies, it really helped me learn a lot about the trans community as well, was an event called Transformative. And I just thought that was really special because it put us in a place where we could learn and be comfortable asking questions, you know, and where the moderators and the speakers were expecting those kinds of questions. So it allowed us to get to know each other a little bit more and understand the differences. You know, just because we're members of this community, we don't understand everything that other people go through, whether, you know, it be somebody who is genderqueer like myself, or somebody who is trans, or even somebody who is bisexual. We all experience and go through different things, and we all have different things to learn in that sense.
Speaking on behalf of the Polish community in Amazon, although in our country, in Poland, the civil partner, neither civil partnership nor marriage of same-sex couples is not recognized by legal, Amazon is the only company I also recognize as allowing partner to be recognized as a member of the family and giving them the benefits of being insured and having the insurance, having the social benefits as well. And so this is in Poland very important, because at that point I am not aware of any other company giving you that support and giving you even that resources to think about it. And what we do in Glamazon Poland, we try to propagate that information outside to a very similar situation to what Juan described, to encourage people to understand what we as a community can benefit from working for Amazon, and how this allows us later on to actually translate this to the country, like saying to the government, listen, we can do it. It's been done. Amazon is doing it everywhere. Come on, start thinking about doing it here.
Speaking of things that Amazon has done for the community outside of Amazon, I'd love to hear an opportunity from Eleanor and Iris. What can Amazon do better to support LGBTQIA+?
Well, yeah, you had mentioned before about for this photo shoot, the photo shoot that I did in Seattle, like specifically putting out a call asking for someone that identified as LGBTQIA+ and was a part of that, yeah, identified that way. And so, but I think that was great, and looking to present those opportunities specifically to that community. And then I don't know, I feel like it's a corporate America has lots of a very long history of problems and oppression. And I think that is in almost inherently in every corporation, and there's a long way to go. And so I think just kind of more knocking down those walls and listening. And I do think that from a corporate professional standpoint, that might sound like sabotage, but if they're really asking, if Amazon is really wanting to, I think making some really big changes is what needs to happen, honestly. So yeah, and those, I think, look, there's a lot of different roads forward, but there are roads.
Yeah, thank you for your honesty, and yes, you know, it's easy for me to say as the VP of Glamazon that Amazon is listening, but I agree there's much work to be done and we have to listen. So I'm happy to meet you all today and to listen and to help, you know, lift up those voices so that we can share with our business partners and our executives how we can continue to do better.
Thank you.
How about you, Iris?
Yo creo que las grandes cosas se empiezan por pequeñas cosas y creo que lo que estáis haciendo está abriendo campo y sobre todo también para otras comunidades y compañías para que vean todo y que la gente se vaya sumando a todo esto.
Yeah, what Amazon is doing is really important because like step by step, you guys can do like super huge things, especially because you're a worldwide company and like you have a really powerful voice. And
creo que es importante que la gente vea esto, porque si esto se ve, tomará conciencia en la gente, ¿no? Entonces creo que es bastante importante.
Yeah, so yeah, to have these voice and especially talk about these topics to make people conscious about what's happening. Of course, we can do better, but like we are getting in there, and actions like this one, it's what is helping the community.
Yes.
We do have to wrap up here today, and I've so appreciated talking to all of you. So I'd like to end with a question for every single one, and we'll start with Juan since you spoke last. But what does Pride mean to you, and how are you celebrating this year?
Okay. So yeah, for me, the Pride, it's a celebration of diversity. I think it's the moment of the year that we have to show what we are and to show that we are a strong community, and it's a way to also to reach people that still feel fear or oppression, and you know, this is a good way of making them to feel some hope and feel some support. And also I think that during the Pride, people can really be who they really want to be, and you know, without the fear of being like judged or just they can just be what they want to be. And this is something that we have to, you know, to protect and to support every one of us.
Thank you. Go ahead, Iris.
Okay, Pride means to me that I can be myself every day and express my love without fear. And yeah.
How are you gonna celebrate this year?
Yeah, this year I celebrate like that. Okay, I show you. With Elton. Hi, Elton.
He's just living. So this is how we are gonna spend Pride this year.
Yeah.
I love it. Happy Pride. How about you, Carolina?
Well, for me personally, it's a both. It's a celebration and a process. It's a celebration of diversity and a protest of the injustice and the discrimination we face for being a part of that minority in Poland. So hence Pride to me means joy and anger. It's hope and also frustration. It's an excitement and contemplation. So I think this year, fingers crossed, if COVID is allowed, to go out and be proud outside. I purchased my flag and I am all ready to go and shout out loud to the community that we are here and we are not going to give up.
I was going to say a total mix of emotions of celebrating diversity and stuff, but just realizing like we all have to fight and we have to keep fighting and learning. And for me personally, like learning how I can do better as an ally. And yeah, just keep fighting. So
it means boldly being who I am, regardless of expectations of society. I am not going to conform to expectations or assimilate or code switch to a demographic that doesn't represent me. And I think that's really important for us to talk about, because code switching, trying to assimilate into the majority, these are all survival tactics. That isn't living, it's surviving. And my goal is to thrive. And the only way that I can thrive is put myself first, to take everything that I am and to know that I am enough, and that my value goes so much more beyond than my title, than anything that I can do for Amazon. And that's the most important part that I think people often forget, that their worth is valued by what they do at a company or in their work. And we have to separate ourselves from that mentality, one that's a white supremacist mentality. We can go down that train and talk about why that's connected. But more importantly, it takes away the affirmation of you are everything and more. And that no matter what, you showcasing and you showing up for yourself and you loving yourself is the most powerful and most rebellious act that you can do. And I think this year, especially for me, I am boldly showing up as Black, queer, and trans, and taking up the space that I was never granted. And I think that's what I want people to do. Bring your seat to the table, because often the chair is not set up for you at the table. And sometimes there's not even a table for you. You need to build it on your own. Bring the chairs and then invite people to it. And I think that's the most important part. You can only do that though when you show up for yourself first. So that's important to me this year.
For me, pride is protest. I think that there's a lot of joy that comes with pride, and the fight for equality. And I think a lot of people feel like, that fight, depending on where you are, has been won. But there's also a fight for equity that's included in that. So I'll spend this holiday the same way I spend all the holidays, protesting, supporting Black and Brown creatives. If you're in the Seattle area, you'll be able to find me at Taking Black Pride, which is definitely going to be a great event that is going to be propping up Black activists, Black drag queens and kings, and support and creatives of that type. So definitely that I'll be protesting. I'll be protesting, but in that protest there will be joy.
I don't think I have anything that could top any of those messages about how you're spending Pride. I have such pride listening to how you all talk about it as professionals, as creatives, and again, so appreciate the openness and honesty about the work that still needs to be done. So it's really great to celebrate what we're doing, but also recognizing what we still have to do, why we have an affinity group, and why it's important to highlight this community and the artists that have so proudly served to capture these stories. So again, thank you all for your time today. It was a pleasure to speak with you and to moderate this conversation.